All right. Well, it's great to be together again. If this is your first time with us, you picked a great week to be here. We are starting a brand new series called Unexpected Christmas. My name is Lou. I'm one of the pastors here, and I'm so glad that you're here. I'd just like to follow up from last week. The decorations around the property, last week they were Thanksgiving decorations. But now they are officially Christmas decorations, so we can really embrace the Christmas season now that Thanksgiving is over. For all of the Thanksgiving people that don't just want to run over it with all the Christmas stuff. I'm one of those people, but that's kind of a point of tension in my house with Allie's my wife, the woman that was just up here before. She loves Christmas. And so anyway, also, if this service is feeling like a little tight, like if you want a little extra room, don't go to the 10 o'clock service, 10 o'clock. But 1 p.m., you can lay down in a row. We'll have snacks like halfway through. Flight attendants will come through. Just kidding. Okay, anyway, let's get to it. So, new series is called Unexpected Christmas. Unexpected Christmas. Now, here's where we'll start, all right? We'll have a little fun here. So, does anybody remember this scene? Anybody? Anybody remember? Okay, raise your hand nice and high if you remember this scene. If you don't remember the scene, or if you're listening online, this scene is from Home Alone 2, which is the better of the Home Alone movies. It's the scene where Kevin McAllister, the little kid, the genius, throws the tool chest down the stairs. These two guys, Harry and Marv, on the other side of the door, hits the door. They go flying backwards into the wall, and they have these faces. And you know what Marv says here, right? He says, "That was the sound of a tool chest falling down the stairs," right? You can almost hear him say it if you know the movie. We've already watched both in my house. But more importantly, do you remember how this scene felt the first time you saw it? Remember what feelings rose to the surface? Or even the last time you saw it, right? There's probably, of course, it was funny. There's a funny feeling there. But there's also probably a feeling of satisfaction, like, yes, he got them again. Feeling of revenge, or maybe not revenge, maybe justice. Like, okay, yes, Kevin is protecting himself. These bad guys are getting hurt, right? But there's a feeling that goes along with this familiar scene. Okay, here's another one, just for fun. Anybody remember this scene here? Okay, this is from the movie Elf. If you don't know the scene, he's struggling. He's having a hard time here because he can't meet his Etch-a-Sketch quota. He's got to make a certain number of Etch-a-Sketches as a elf that works in Santa's workshop. His supervisor here is a little disappointed with him. A little fun Christmas fact here. This supervisor is actually the same actor who played Ralphie in A Christmas Story. So here, this is the scene. Do you remember how you felt when you saw this? Last time, you remember the feelings that rose to the surface? Maybe you felt his inadequacy. Maybe you felt the frustration. He was feeling like you just can't knock it out with that little hammer fast enough, if that's how Etch-a-Sketches are made. Or maybe there's a feeling of hope, because this is the beginning of the movie. He's 6 feet tall. He's obviously not an elf. This story's obviously going in a different direction. Maybe there was some anticipation. But there are the familiar feelings that come back with this familiar scene. Okay, last one. This is a little less popular, I'm told. Still a good Christmas movie. Remember this scene? This is from Jingle All the Way. All right, in case you haven't seen it, this is Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's a dad, and he's trying to get that toy. And this is the scene where he finally gets the toy. And through a crazy series of events, he ends up dressed up as Turbo Man on the float during the parade. But if you've seen this, do you remember the feeling? It's a feeling of relief. Okay, finally got the toy for his son. Feeling of victory. You can see how happy he is. Familiar scenes have this amazing ability to stir up familiar feelings within us. They can bring us right back to the first time that we experienced what was happening in that scene. All right, here's another familiar scene. Anybody familiar with this scene? Okay, it's a depiction of the birth of Jesus, right? You've probably seen some that look something like that, maybe out on the grass, maybe under a Christmas tree, maybe on a fireplace mantle or something. But do you remember the feelings that were stirred up by this familiar scene? Like if you're like me, if your story's like mine, for a long time, the feelings that I felt like at least I was supposed to feel here were feelings of like silent night, all is calm, all is bright, I think. Right? Like everything is just the way it's supposed to be. This is the serious, reverent part of the Christmas story. It's under the tree. It's in a place where it's like put on display. And so often we have these feelings, like very positive, clean feelings of joy and hope and peace, all this stuff, right? But if you are a person in the ancient world, especially someone who's part of the religious community in the ancient world, and you saw this scene, you would have feelings that are probably closer to the feelings we feel when we see this scene that we started with in the video right before I got up here, right? They're feelings of, or pictures of twists and turns and curveballs and chaos. There's a turkey on the head. There's food flying across the room. There's a little sibling showdown going on over here. By the way, this was made by a volunteer on our team, that whole video. It's pretty unbelievable, right? These people, they all go to our church. They might be over there. Except Grandma. I'm not sure who Grandma was. We don't know where she came from, but she did a great job. Right, so for a person in the ancient world, don't miss this, for a person in the ancient world, they see this and they feel this. Like, why is that baby in that thing? Where are they? Are they outside? Who are those people? Their feelings of twists and turns and curveballs and chaos, they're not so clean. And so what we're trying to do with this series is go back to this picture, which is actually a picture of a very unexpected Christmas, because each aspect of this story has something so powerful to teach us here today in 2025. Whether you're someone who's been in church for a really long time, or you're just checking things out, or even if you don't believe any of this, there is so much to be offered in this story, but we have to understand what was actually going on in the story. This week, the aspect of the story we're looking at this week, before I tell you who we're talking about, has anyone seen The Voice on NBC, the show The Voice? Okay. Just like three of us, right? Okay, if you don't know The Voice, it's one of those music shows where you get up on stage and you sing, and there are these judges, these famous people who are in the music realm, and they've got their backs turned. They're in a big red chair, and someone goes on stage, they sing. You hope that they've got the right voice. You hope that they sing the right song, and you hope that they hit the right notes. You're like rooting for them, and if they do, if all goes well, they're like, boom, and the coaches are like, I want you on my team, and then their whole chair turns around, and they're embraced, they're accepted. Like the people that sing, they're good enough to get the attention of the people in the chairs. And there's a few of them, but for the most part, most of us are just kind of like, if you watch a show, you're just sitting at home on the couch, cheering them on, or you're sitting in the stands, hoping all goes well, right? There's really just a few who sing the right notes, pick the right songs, have the right voice. Have you ever felt that way with God? Like, there are some people that do all the right things, a few. And they're the right people, you know, they got the right voice, they hit the right notes, and they're good enough to get God's chair to turn. Like, they're good enough to get his attention. There's a few of them. But really, most of us, like, we're just kind of sitting in the stands, you know, or like cheering on from home. Like, maybe it works for some people, but for us, like, we're not good enough to get his attention. The aspect of the story that we're about to jump into, it feels like the turning of a chair, but maybe not in the way that you'd expect. And so if we put our picture up here, right, this is a scene you're probably a little more familiar with. It's a little like some silhouettes of the situation here. Somebody told me last time I put this up here that these look like two Tyrannosaurus Rex heads. I'm like, well, thanks. You ruined that for me. And now for everyone else here. So we're talking about these people over here on the left side, this little group of people. They're often referred to as the three kings who were there the night that Jesus was born, all right? They've got the song, you know the song, We Three Kings of Orient are. All right, if you want, you could Google it later, but that's often how they're referred to. If you've got one of those nativity sets, they're usually the ones dressed in all fancy clothes. They've got crowns, some of them, and a box. Many of them have a box with their gift. They're the people who bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh, all right? There's something pretty radical happening through these people in the Christmas story. But there's a few things you need to know about them, okay? There were not actually three of them. There were three gifts. That's where we get the number 3 from. But there could have been 2. There could have been 30. We have no idea how many were actually there. Also, they were not kings. They were advisors to kings, but they weren't actually kings. Like, you ever think about that? Like, 3 kings just hang out. They're just like in a king's club. You know, they're going to visit a little baby born outside. Right? No, they're not actually kings. And they weren't actually there the night that Jesus was born. But they play an important part in the story. So who are they? What are these people? They're referred to as Magi. Magi. That's the plural form of the word magus. So one of them would just be referred to as a magus, okay? They were from the east, so they were not part of the religious community. They were probably from Persia. The word magi is a Persian word, so they probably were from Persia. They were advisors to the king, probably the king of Persia. And their job was to discern the will of the gods by reading what was happening in the stars. And based on what they found out, they would advise the king of Persia, where they're from, okay? That's who's in this story, okay? So here we go. This is recorded by Matthew, now that you know that about our friends, the Magi. It says, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem, right? Not the night, but after, during the time of King Herod, a guy named Herod was the king during that period of time, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose. Remember the star thing? They're doing their thing. They're reading the stars. And we have come to worship him. Now, a little backstory in case you're not familiar with the story of the Jews. Jesus was a Jewish person. The ancient religious community, the Jewish community, they were waiting for a hero to arrive. This king that was going to rescue them from oppression, from the difficulties that they were going through. They had been waiting years and years and years for this king to come. And so these people feel like he's here based on what they've seen in the stars. They show up in Jerusalem, which is where the king would and should be, and is where King Herod is. And they're like, where is he? Well, King Herod hears this, and we're told he is disturbed. And not just him, but all Jerusalem, like the whole city, is disturbed with him. Now, fun fact here about Herod. King Herod was a paranoid maniac. He was known as Herod the Great. He was obsessed with his power, but he hated the idea of not being in charge so much that he killed his own family members who were in line to be king after him because he hated the idea of someone else being king. He killed his own wife because he was afraid she was conspiring against him. And I think the craziest thing that this guy did, like he planned for the day that he died, however he ended up dying, whenever he died, he planned on that day to have other people in the community that the community loved. He had them planned to be killed on the day that he died so that everyone would be sad the day that he died. But not for him, for other people, because nobody liked this guy, right? Okay, this is the character we're dealing with. And so he's disturbed because he is the reigning king of the Jews. He's not like he was appointed by Rome. His heart wasn't really in it with the ancient Jewish people, but that was his role. And so people show up, they're like, hey, we heard there's a new king that's been born. And he's like, not happy about that because he's so obsessed with his power. All of Jerusalem apparently is annoyed as well. Like they're not happy either, they're disturbed. So what does he do? Well, he calls together all the people's chief priests and the teachers of the law, the teachers of their religious writings. And he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. I told you before, these people were waiting for the hero to come. The reason they were waiting was because in their version of the Bible, there were all these promises about a hero that was going to come. And some of them were very specific, like where he was going to be born. And so the Magi show up, they're like, where is the one who's been born king of the Jews? And Herod's like, all right, let me consult the experts here. He goes to them and they know, they have the answer. They're like, oh, easy. In Bethlehem, in Judea, they replied, for this is what is written in the prophets. And they just right off the bat are able to rattle off the Bible verse. Now, they probably have this whole thing memorized, which is crazy, but they give them the verse. We even know where that is. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means among the least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people, Israel. Like they know the verse, they're like, he's gonna be born in Bethlehem. So Herod, the king, calls the Magi secretly, and he tries to find out when the star that they saw, when it had appeared. And then it says, he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him. He's full of baloney. He wants to kill the baby. After they heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. It says, when they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and they worshiped him. Like they found what they were looking for. So you and I read that and we're like, okay, maybe it's a good story, interesting, maybe, but it doesn't really like resonate in the feelings for me, at least. I'm like, okay, there's some ups, some downs here, but what's actually going on? There are actually a number of huge twists in this story. The first one is the fact that the Magi are in the story. That is the huge twist. They don't belong in the story of the birth of the Messiah, like the Jewish hero everyone's been waiting for. They don't belong in that story. In that culture, these religious people, they wouldn't even eat with people outside their community. They wouldn't let them in their homes. They wouldn't share a meal with them. They were off limits. And so to say that these people showed up and were looking for the arrival of the Messiah is like, no, this isn't your story. This would be like Buzz Lightyear showing up in The Lion King. You're like, hey, this is like, go away. This is not your thing. Not only that, but these people, they are people who aren't supposed to be there. They're also doing what that community was not supposed to participate in. They were not allowed to read the stars. It was considered like divination or sorcery. And so the fact that they show up, they're not like, hey, we went and read your Bible, and so we're going to look for a king. They're like, no, we were doing our thing, which you guys aren't allowed to do, but that's how we found out that there's this king that's been born. And so everyone's disturbed. The fact that they're in this story is this radical twist, but there's something important that's being communicated to us by their presence in the story. What Matthew is trying to show us, what God is trying to show us, is that within all of us, like on the inside of religious life, outside of religious life, in circles that we're comfortable with, in circles that we're uncomfortable with, people that look like us and people that don't look like us, there is this universal, unrelenting desire, involuntary desire for a sense of meaning in life, a sense of purpose. What a lot of people have come to call the pursuit of God. It's this desire for not just meaning, but the giver of a meaning. And if you look all throughout culture and all throughout human history, you'll see it all over the place. Look for it. It's in music. Like, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. It's in song after song. It's in Buddhists refer to this as like a burning hot coal that's stuck in your throat. It's too hot to swallow, but you can't spit it out. In other words, it's like something there you have to do something about. There's a question that needs to be answered. There's something that needs to be pursued. Jim Carrey is famous for saying, he's a very well-known actor, comedian. He's famous for saying, I wish everyone could become rich and famous and get everything they ever wanted, only so that they'd realize that it's not the answer. Like, the answer to what? This is what we're talking about. There is this desire within us. Other faiths have called it a God-shaped hole. Tom Brady was interviewed a few years ago. Tom Brady's a famous quarterback. He retired. But he retired the best of the best. He's the greatest of all time, as much as I don't like to admit that. He was interviewed after winning all of these different things. And they're like, so what's next? And he's like, there's just got to be more to life than this. Like, in other words, he got to the top of the mountain and saw that what he was looking for wasn't there. What he was pursuing was not where he was pursuing it. Jesus showed up and claimed to be the answer to this question. He claimed to be the bread to this hunger. He claimed to be the water to this thirst. He claimed to be the one that could give rest to our striving souls. Now, I don't know about you, maybe, especially if you don't go to church, like if you're not buying all this, you're like, I don't even believe this, I'm just doing somebody a favor here today, or you like the Christmas lights, or whatever. I don't know why you're here. But if you don't buy into this, right, I'm willing to bet you didn't wake up this morning like, today I'm in pursuit of God. But I bet you're in pursuit of something. Maybe it's a certain level of success. Maybe it's a certain income. Maybe it's a house. Maybe it's another house. Maybe it's a wife, a husband. Maybe it's a child. But maybe there's something in life, school you want to get into. There's something you're in pursuit of, and you feel like when I get there, then I'll have what I'm looking for. And we often don't use those words, but there's a restlessness inside us until we get to the next thing. And then you know this. I don't need to tell you this because I do the same exact thing. You get there and you're like, this isn't it. Now there's something else. And the reason why is because it's not the thing you're after. It's the human condition. It's the desire for a sense of knowing now my soul can rest because I have found what I'm looking for. The thing you're in pursuit of, right? You may not call it God, but I bet you're hoping it will give you a sense of meaning. It will give you a sense of accomplishment. It'll give you a sense that you made it, that you have what you need. It'll give you the security you're looking for. Fill in the blank, whatever you want to call it. But there's a hope that it's going to give me something. And what the biblical authors would say is God is offering that to you. Because ultimately what you're looking for is the one who can supply the thing that you were made for. And so they're in the story to show us, like, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, all of us, it's part of the human condition. They are searching for something. In fact, it was not normal. If you research this, it was not normal for Magi to leave their land to go and worship the king of another group of people. But there was something within them that felt like there was something more to this. And so they went. And that's the twist. They don't fit in the story, but they're in it. There's a pursuit of God. But the more radical twist in the story, the crazier part of the story, it's so easy to miss, is that they go looking in the stars for answers and they find them. In other words, they pursue God only to find that he is in pursuit of them. He's like longing to show himself to people. And that's the story of what we believe. I mentioned this at the end of last week, at the end of our series. I talked about this idea of the pursuit of God. And it really sparked a lot of good conversations because so many of us believe like you got to do all the right things. You got to impress God. You got to sing the right song. You got to hit the right notes. And hopefully, for just a few of us, he'll turn his chair. But this story, what this shows us and God's posture toward these people looking for answers in the start, the extent that he shows them himself, the big twist in this story is not that we're pursuing God, but that God is pursuing us. The big twist in this story is that God is trying to get your chair to turn. God is trying to get your attention. He's in pursuit of you. And it's big. It's big in a general sense. Like everything that we do, and we could talk about this for weeks, but everything that we do is in response to God's pursuit of us. If you believe the stuff that Jesus taught, then what we're doing is just a response of gratitude to what God has done for us. We're not working to like meet the requirements for his love. We're responding to the radical extent of his love that he gives freely. And so we're responding to the one who's in pursuit of us. And if you've like kept God at an arm's length, like, I don't know, that's enough for me to let my guard down. To know, okay, I am an ingredient, C.S. Lewis would say, I am an ingredient in the divine happiness. Like God actually wants me. Not to work hard to like earn his favor, but simply to like say, okay, like I'll accept what you're offering me. But it's also true in not just a general sense, but a specific sense. Like the pursuit of God, okay, so there's two sides to this. It's your pursuit of God, but it's more importantly, it is God's pursuit of you. In other words, to some extent or another, right now, I would argue that God is trying to get your attention. God is trying to get your attention. Somehow. Could be in a big way, could be in a small way, but it requires us to respond. Right? Like if you think about the story, God speaks to these Magi through the star, which doesn't make sense to the religious community at the time. It's why they're so disturbed. But I read the story, I'm like, well, what about everyone else? Right? What about the people who are actually part of the religious community? He's in pursuit of them as well. In fact, he sends them a whole group of Magi saying, we think that the guy you've been waiting for is here. Tell us where to go. And they're like, oh, yeah. We memorized that verse, Bethlehem. And then they leave and they're like, see ya. Like, God is in pursuit of them, but they can't be bothered. The ones you would expect to be like, holy cow. I mean, we weren't expecting it to come from these people, but what if they're telling the truth? Like, what if there really is something on the other side of this star they're talking about? Then nobody goes out to see them. They're not willing to give God their attention. And I think this is like a warning for those of us that would consider ourselves people of faith. It is so easy to just get used to knowing the right things, being in the right place, doing the right stuff, and God can be doing something right in front of you to get your attention, and you just miss it. Because we're good with our thing. We know the stuff. We know the verses. He's trying to, God is a pursuer. He is trying, all throughout the story of Scripture, he's wooing the people that he loves. And he's trying to point them in the direction of the hero, Jesus, the one who said he came to give life to the full. God is trying to turn your chair. He's trying to get your chair to turn. There's one of our friends in the church, someone we've gotten to know over the past several years. I think she's probably the best example I've seen of someone who is willing and eager to give God their attention. Like something will go wrong, either at work or there'll be like a complex situation at home, or maybe tension in a relationship, and we're talking, and what ends up happening is like, oh, well, this went that way. And then immediately after that, there's this question of, I'm just trying to figure out what God is teaching me through this. In all of the situations, I'm trying to figure out how God wants me to learn to trust him in this situation. Maybe he's trying to show me something within me that I didn't realize. And there's this constant willingness to follow the star. This constant willingness to see, like, there's probably something on the other end of this difficulty. For me, I'm not like that. I'm like, oh, this thing went wrong, and it stinks, period, end of story, and then move on to the next thing. Because that's the easier thing to do. But there's a God who's trying to he's in pursuit of you. He's trying to get your attention, and he's not trying to lead you to do the right thing. He's trying to show you, point you in the direction of Jesus, who is in this for you, like who wants you to flourish, who wants to offer you life more abundantly, and a way to get there, a way to live that is that. Is it possible that for you, if you stop and think about your life for a minute, is it possible that maybe over the last few days, maybe the day you celebrated Thanksgiving, maybe there are other people there, is it possible there's something that happened? Maybe there was a conversation you had. Maybe there's an unexpected thing that happened, and it just hit you in a different way. Is it possible that maybe God is trying to get your attention? Maybe he's trying to show you something that may be difficult to acknowledge, but ultimately will end in your good? Is it possible that as you think about the holiday season and your plans over the next few weeks, is there something you're dreading? Is there someone you don't want to see? Is there something that you wish was different? Is it possible that God is trying to get your attention? Is it possible that there's a star that he wants you to follow? It requires us to stop and think, to not just keep going at the insane pace most of us travel at, but to stop and think, maybe there's something to be gained from this struggle, from this unexpected star in my story. I'm going to ask the band to come back up here. We're going to wrap up, just about out of time. But I want to leave you one last picture. In 2007, there was this experiment that was done in Washington, D.C. A guy who plays the violin decided to go into the metro station, take out his violin. He opened up his violin case, and he just played as well as he could for 45 minutes. And people watched to see what would happen. The people who were conducting this experiment watched. During that time, well over 1,000 people passed by. The vast majority of them didn't stop and look at him. A few people threw change in his violin case, a few dollars. By the end of the whole thing, he had made like $32. That violinist his name is Joshua Bell. He's one of the greatest violin players in the entire world. The violin he was playing was worth over $3 million. And just a few days earlier, he was playing in front of a crowd of thousands who had paid hundreds to see him. And so the same guy with the same skills went to a different place with the same instrument and played the same songs. And everyone missed it because though it was remarkable, no one expected it to look the way that it did. What if in your life right now, there's something happening that's potentially remarkable, but it doesn't look the way you'd expect it to look? It's inconvenient. It's uncomfortable. But what if it's a star in your story? And what if it can point you to the one who came to offer you life to the full? The one who is and has been in pursuit of you.
Hey, this is Lou. Thanks for listening. I hope that this was helpful for you in some way. So a lot of people don't know this, but Community Church is completely supported by the generous donations of people like you and me. And if you'd like to join that community of financial supporters, you can go to communitychurch.net/give, or you can give anytime on our church app. And so thanks for being part of this community, whether it's locally or from a distance. Thanks for investing in your faith. And thanks for being part of something that's bigger than yourself. Hope to see you soon.